Hello and welcome to a special edition of UK Crime Caught on Camera. In this one, we are looking at what some call Britain's FBI, that is the National Crime Agency, and some of their biggest drug busts from recent times. Set up in 2013, the National Crime Agency, or NCA for short, is the UK's lead law enforcement body and goes after serious and organised crime. The NCA deal with many serious crimes, but this first one is bananas. The agency busted 5 men who tried smuggling £210 million worth of cocaine, that's around 2.7 tonnes, into the UK in a shipment of Colombian bananas. The gang of banana coke smugglers received 41 pallets of the fruit, and much of the drugs were avoided. The NCA says it was one of the largest seizures ever in the UK. Armed cops used a circular saw to enter the premises during the raid you're watching now. The men had constructed dozens of cardboard boxes which they had intended to pack the drugs into. Officers also found 9 empty suitcases which were to be used to be filled with cash generated from drug sales. Those involved wound up getting almost a century behind bars and were sentenced to a combined 98 years. Several criminals have been jailed for a total of over 240 years for smuggling several £billion worth of heroin, cocaine and cannabis into the UK. They were part of what the UK authorities call an OCG, an organised crime group. This particular group included crooks from the UK and Netherlands. It's thought that the group supplied other gangs more than 50 tonnes of drugs from regions in the south of England to Scotland. Now, the gang leader was jailed for 32 years and his accomplice was sentenced to 25 years. It was this fella who provided the Dutch connection and opened new smuggling routes into the UK. Another man was jailed for 3 years and 9 months after becoming the director of a front company in the Netherlands. There, he helped a notorious Dutch crime boss, currently serving an 18-year sentence, open personal and business accounts in the UK using fake credentials. Per the NCA, in total, more than 246 years of jail time has been given to 12 members of the gang. 2 men who cannot be named for legal reasons await sentencing. Another admitted conspiring to import Class A drugs and will be sentenced at a date to be confirmed. 2 were given suspended sentences and 1 died before sentencing. A corrupt cruise worker smuggled more than £2 million worth of cocaine on his ship. He had 28 kilograms of cocaine aboard, but was caught when he tried to offload it to 2 members of a British organised crime group who were waiting in a RHIB, a rigid-hulled inflatable boat, to collect it. When the cruise was moored, he dragged a holdall containing the drugs from his cabin to a portside deck, attached a rope to it and lowered it back down. The drugs were so heavy, the rope burned the skin from his hand. He was nabbed and jailed for 11 years. He was one of 6 men who were convicted after a National Crime Agency investigation into 2 international conspiracies to smuggle cocaine with a total street value of nearly £9.5 million to the UK. The other 5 were sentenced to a combined 85 years in total. Alongside the cruise worker's sentence, that's almost 96 years. Drug smuggling really is a mug's game, but trying to swim from cops in a speedboat when you're caught in the act of smuggling has to take the biscuit. These 2 individuals did just that. Why? Well, probably because they've had 350 kilograms in the hull of their vessel and tried to flee from officers by doing an awful Michael Phelps impression. The unsynchronized swimming duo were arrested after the boat was intercepted near Suffolk. The 2 men were seen on board as border cops closed in. One jumped from the vessel and swam towards the beach, while his pal here tried to restart the engines. That didn't work. Not one to go down with the ship, the boat was soon grounded. Officers later caught up with him in Norfolk with some silver jewellery, bangles, that is, not a medal for his failed attempt at the triathlon. Man had no bike. Inside the duo's boat, police found £39 million worth of the Charlie. They reckon that the smugglers travelled towards French waters to pick up the drugs from a larger vessel before ferrying them back to the UK. Both pled guilty to importing a controlled drug. According to the National Crime Agency, the British cocaine market is worth £4 billion per year. So when they and Border Force seized 5.7 tonnes of it, that's around £450 million worth of Charlie, at a port in Southampton, things went a bit bananas. That's because the drugs were hidden with a cargo of fruit, which had been sent in from South America. The agency said at the time, in February 2024, it was believed to be the biggest ever seizure of Class A drugs in the UK. Investigators reckon the shipment was bound for Hamburg, Germany for onward delivery. The previous largest UK seizure saw 3.7 tonnes of cocaine, also found at Southampton in 2022, and 3.2 tonnes found on board the tugboat NV Hamal in Scotland in 2015. The NCA says cocaine trafficking is closely linked to serious violence throughout the supply chain, including firearms and knife crime in the UK, and that the illicit trade has seen an exponential rise in associated violence in the past few years. NCA officers busted the ringleader of a group which tried to smuggle 139 kilograms worth of cocaine into the UK. His criminal pals are doing 62 years hard time between them after they were nabbed by agency officers unloading what they thought was a shipping container containing £11 million worth of drugs. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was an NCA Border Force sting. The boss meanwhile directed their op via WhatsApp and text messages, but he couldn't give the long arm of the law the slip for long. Officers nabbed him at Heathrow just as he was about to catch a flight back to Turkey where he was staying at the time. He was convicted by a jury last summer. Now we hope you've had some time to get some air because this next one involves an inflatable boat and £42 million worth of coke. Our first drug dealer here was nabbed by the NCA with over half a ton of the stuff in his van outside a hotel in East Yorkshire. He'd stayed with two smugglers in the hotel the night before. Per the NCA, these two, one of whom is Colombian, sailed a rigid-hulled inflatable boat from a slipway in nearby Hessel. They used the boat to ferry drugs from a larger ship to a beach. The van driver was spotted shining a torch out to sea and talking on his phone when they made their approach. Agency operatives cited the two smugglers ditching the boat at the beach after unloading their quarry into the van. Earlier in the day, the gang drove to Hessel and stopped to fill two large jerry cans with fuel. The three were all eventually charged and found guilty. Another man was cleared by the jury. Now hold on to your socks, viewers, because we've saved perhaps the most bananas story for last. And ironically, it doesn't involve any bananas. No, this involves a cute dog photo, £45 million worth of MDMA, a mechanical digger, and the land down under. What led to the downfall of this nefarious plot? Well, the gangster leading the charge accidentally sent a snap of his canine on an encrypted underworld chat. This was picked up by NCA operatives who saw the man's partner's phone number on the dog tag. You can probably guess how the rest of the story unfolds. What's bizarre is that the man's gang had stuffed a massive stash of the MDMA inside a mechanical digger and made a fake auction to make shipping the machine from Southampton to Australia look legit. But crack investigators dug into the details and deconstructed the criminal gang's plot. The accidental dog tag pic led them right to the culprit. The unintended follow-up partial selfies probably didn't help either. It was agreed the intended digger recipients would successfully bid on the farm machinery in the fake auction. But this cavalcade of blunders does not stop there. Other buyers registered their interest in the digger. Now, wouldn't that have been a surprise for them? A gang member texted saying, "There are 6 people watching it." They responded, "Effing hell. That's not good, is it?" After it was bought, the digger was moved from Leeds to Essex, where a welder cut out a secret hiding place in the machine's arm. They wanted to seal the MDMA behind a lead lining. And soon, it was on its way to the land down under. But Aussie border cops x-rayed the digger, removed the MDMA, and resealed the arm, planting a bug and tracker. It then went on to an auction house in Sydney, and then onto another site near the city. The gang sent their Aussie partners in crime diagrams of where the drugs were hidden. But alas, after 2 days of hunting, the Aussies found nothing, and the UK gang started their own criminal investigation into who stole their drugs. Ironic, right? But sometime later, the UK gang were all eventually nabbed and later convicted by a jury. And to think, this elaborately planned multi-million-pound international drug deal was all foiled by a dog pick. Thanks for watching another episode of UK Crime Caught on Camera and Shots. If you're watching us in Freeview, stay tuned for more authentic UK television curated from the hearts of British communities by journalists living in them. If you're watching anywhere else, please like, share us around, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Doing so helps us to keep creating content like this.